What's going on, guys? I'm Centopani here. I am in my basement, and today I'd like to give you guys kind of a glimpse into what my leg training looks like at the moment, and hopefully share with you guys some of the things that I've found useful for myself. Just a couple little tips, tricks. I'm going to try to make this as detail-oriented as possible. You may or may not know, if you're watching this, that I suffered an injury. I completely ruptured my quadricep tendon. I underwent surgery for it. They reattached it. This was a couple years ago. It was a hell of an injury. I don't wish it on anyone. I don't wish any injury on anyone, but if you're going to get an injury, just don't get that one. It's not a good one. So it's taken me a lot to come back from it. I learned a lot of things along the way. I've had a lot of people message me, people who've had the injury, and I've been able to share with them some things that maybe can kind of fast track them, rather than things that took me a year to figure out, or things that I'm still figuring out. So yeah, even some of that stuff I think I could share with you today. And even if you don't have an injury, you've never had an injury, you certainly don't want an injury, there are things that I still think can be really, really helpful to you. So here we are. It is noon. I've had 2 meals so far. I'm on the treadmill, just doing a warm-up, about 10 minutes. I did a half an hour of cardio earlier because I am dieting. I am in a contest prep. Don't know if the show's gonna happen or not, but anyways, I'm doing cardio daily. Now, let's talk about that. For some of you guys watching this, if you're younger, you're in your early to mid 20s or even younger, you probably don't run into much in the way of aches and pains, limited mobility, things like that. I used to laugh at all this stuff, when I was in my early to mid 20s, even into my late 20s. I never warmed up. I never stretched. I never did any of that stuff. I would just come in the gym on leg day, put 4 plates on the bar, and squat away. And, all the older guys in the gym were like, dude, you're not going to be able to do that forever. You're going to pay the price for that, all that stuff. And I was like, me? No way. I'm good. Maybe you guys, but not me. Well, sure enough, it catches up. So I think had I been doing things all along, even when I didn't necessarily need them, it would have been helpful in the long run. I apologize if I'm breathing a little heavy from the treadmill. One of those things that's great to do is to just get on a treadmill and warm up. What does it do? Well, just the motion of your legs, every time you take a stride, it helps to, open up your hips a little bit, warms up your lower back, just gets blood flowing. So when it comes time to do other movements, you just function better. It's like a car. You start a car, it's cold, it's winter time. Once it gets going, once it gets warmed up, it literally runs better. When I was younger, I used to worry about things. I'd be like, well, if I get on the treadmill and I do some cardio, that's going to take away from my power output and things like that, and my strength during training. Would it have? Probably not. Probably, if anything, would have made me perform better, which is the point I'm at now. If I come in and I start training cold, I perform like garbage. So one of the things I do, get on a treadmill. I've got it set at 3 miles an hour, nothing crazy. The incline is set at 5. And I just walk for 10 minutes. So when I get off, my hips are a little bit opening up. Things just move better, they feel better. I'm not as achy. Some of you guys, again, you're watching this, maybe you don't have aches and pains, maybe you don't feel stiff. It's just better to do it, trust me. Trust me. Please, I didn't listen to the guys that told me to do it, just listen to me. Once we get off of this, I'm going to hit the foam roller. Again, something that didn't even exist when I was in my early 20s. What's a foam roller? Didn't have them. Now they're everywhere. People use them. Are they beneficial? I can't speak on it from any kind of, scientific point of view, but I can tell you from using it prior to training to even using it in between sets, yes, it helps me train better. What do I mean by train better? Well, when I get down on the floor, first time I use the foam roller, right? First time I get down, I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna go to get up off the floor, and I'm gonna feel, my knees, my hips. By the third or fourth time, I'm gonna get right up off the floor. Things are gonna start feeling better. It enables me to have better mechanics in my sets. Why are mechanics important? Obviously, if you're a power lifter, when it comes to things like leverage and all that, mechanics are huge. Because if your mechanics are off, things aren't going to fall into place properly. You're not going to be able to move the maximum amount of weight and all that. But just the same as a bodybuilder, you need the right mechanics too. If things are off, things are tight, things hurt, rather than feeling everything in the muscle where you're supposed to, having a great mind-muscle connection, getting nice and pumped and getting nice and sore in the following days, all you're going to have are aching, hurting joints. So you don't want that. You want to feel your training where you're supposed to be feeling it. You want it to be productive. You want to be effectively working the muscle group you're trying to work, and not just working your joints, your tendons, your ligaments, and beating the hell out of them. So once we get off of this, I'm going to show you my leg workout. Now, I don't do this leg workout every week. This is about every other week because I will squat every other week. I don't squat every week. Why? I don't know. I just make better progression when I don't. If I squat every week, things start to stagnate more. So as overzealous as I've gotten in the past and squatted every week, I've learned that I'm better when I don't. So this workout is going to consist of really only a few movements. Leg extensions, which I don't consider to be any kind of significant mass builder. However, leg extension I think is a really valuable movement in that you can create some really strong neurological recruitment. You can really make the quads fire. Then when you go on to do other movements, whether you're squatting, doing any kind of pressing movement, you should feel it exactly where it is you are trying to feel it, AKA in the quads. Which for me, post-injury, one of the hardest exercises to do was a leg extension. Brutal. All sorts of pain. I'd go to do it, the leg would shake, all sorts of pain. We'd say, well, big deal, not a crucial movement. And I would agree with you. However, when I would go to squat or do any kind of pressing movement, I would end up with sore glutes and sore hips and not much soreness in my quads, which is not a good sign. So I wanted the leg extension because it would help me to activate the quads so that when I would go and do a pressing movement, I could feel them more specifically. I could have a better mind-muscle connection. So I think that leg extensions are valuable, maybe in their own, just even by themselves, they're valuable, but I think they're most valuable for that reason, to use in conjunction with other movements to increase neurological recruitment and improve mind-muscle connection. It's a better feel what it is you're trying to train and to do it in a way that's both safer and more effective. So, without further ado, let's get started. All right, so I just kind of get down on the floor here. Now, I'm sure there's more of a correct way to do this from a technical standpoint, but I just basically kind of go all over and I find spots that for me are kind of chronically tight and roll back and forth on them and up and down on them, and just kind of keep going at them until, you know, maybe the third or fourth round they really don't hurt so much. One of the most important things when you're doing this, at least that I've found, because if you tense your leg, you can roll around on this thing all day and not feel much. You got to really let the muscle just go limp and kind of just drag your body, drag the muscle across it, and really let the pad dig in. And that's when you're really gonna feel it. If you're not feeling it, you're probably not doing something right. Or I guess you're just in such incredible condition and everything's functioning so well that this just doesn't hurt. And if that's the case, good for you. But for most people, you're gonna feel this if you leave the muscles limp and just kind of let the roller dig into the muscle. And then I'll just switch sides. For me, up here at the top, around my hips, I always feel it a lot. And after doing this, I notice my movement is just much better. Even just walking around. Sounds stupid, but I just even walk better. Now, some people say you're not supposed to roll, you're just supposed to get a spot and sit on it. I do that too, but I find that some movement is helpful too. It's like rolling out pizza dough. You could push the dough in one spot, but if you're really trying to lengthen the muscle as a whole, you should have some movement to kind of stretch and roll out the whole thing. And I'll do several rounds of this. Maybe four rounds, So I hit each leg 4 times. And even if you roll across an area and it doesn't hurt at first, after a few more passes, you might find it starting to hurt as the roller starts to get in there more. So I would encourage you to really take your time with this. And I know like right now, okay, I'm working out at home, so it's nice to be able to do this on a carpet, on my basement floor. I'm not at the gym. I don't feel stupid in front of anybody, but I'm gonna do it anyways because if it's gonna help my training, I'm gonna do what I need to do. If everybody else at the gym is doing what they're supposed to do, then they shouldn't be worried about looking stupid either. I know this seems like a lot of hoopla, just to get into a workout, but obviously I wouldn't be wasting my time doing it if it wasn't worth it, because who the hell wants to do this? Certainly wouldn't be doing it unless it was worth it. Warm-up cardio is done. Some foam rolling is done. I'm going to start with some extensions. And there's only 100 pounds on the stack, and I'm going to do this for probably, close to 50 reps. You guys can count if you want. But it's not heavy. It's designed to just make the muscles burn and just drive blood in there so that in the following sets, it's cushioned, everything is ready to go. All right, that's 50. Now, side note, if you can do 50 straight, then the weight's probably too light. So you should need to do at least one rest pause because it burns so much. You got to kind of let it chill out for a second before you can keep going. If it takes more than, I would say, 2 rest pauses during the set, it's probably too heavy. But 50 reps. I'll add another 50 pounds to it. And the next set, I'll start to do a warm-up set with some split squats. And I'm going to show you how I do those. Now, those coming out of an injury ended up being the most valuable exercise in my arsenal. It was actually Jordan Shallow who recommended them to me. It's an exercise I had done years ago with John Meadows, but was never something I incorporated consistently into my routine. And I was talking with Jordan about my injury and some of the frustration that I was having. He's like, man, you should really put split squats into your routine. Do them consistently. They'll help with stabilizing the hip joint. And if you can get strong with those, your leg training will probably get pretty strong overall. So a lot of times I'll include them as part of a superset with extensions. And the burn is pretty nasty. So I'm gonna add 50 pounds of this, 150. And believe it or not, this is a fairly heavy extension, this Body Masters one. So 150 on this feels fairly significant. We'll see what kind of rep range I end up in. As you guys may or may not be able to see, I've got a piece of tape on the floor so I know where to put my foot. What you don't want when you do these, your foot to be too far forward, so you're using all glute. And obviously you don't want your foot so far backward that when you come down, your heel is lifting off the floor, or that your knees are going too far over your toes. What I use is this lying leg curl, and I use the pad on it to rest the foot that I'm pivoting from. And just try to come down nice and deep. Now I'm keeping pressure on my entire foot from my heel to my toe, trying to really distribute pressure evenly. 9. Just a warm-up set. 20 reps with body weight. All right, so we're entering our first work set here. I've increased the weight to 200 pounds. The stack on this goes up to 250. So 200 for me, especially on this one, is fairly significant. If I get anywhere from say 10 to 15 reps, that's about normal. So I'm gonna hit this, and then I'll probably go into the split squats, holding, I'm gonna say 50s. That's another movement where if you do too much weight and you're not ready for it, or you're not executing it perfectly, you're not going to get everything out of it that you can. So I'll start with the 50s. I'll go up, assuming it feels good. And if I'm doing those as a standalone movement and not pre-exhausting with extensions, then the weight that I'm going to use is usually going to be more significant. But after this, those feel crazy and heavy. So when it comes to doing these, if I'm going to give any kind of advice, it'd be to try to start from the hip and then work down toward the knee, if that makes any sense. You don't want to just use your knees to strong arm this movement. You want to pull from the top of the quad down. Again, at least that's what I visualize when I'm doing it, and try to use the bulk of my quad rather than just the teardrop. And again, I know this isn't a muscle building movement per se, but to try to distribute the stress as much as possible throughout the quads, so that when I go and I do the split squats, again, I'm not just feeling it around the knee or in the teardrop, but I'm feeling it throughout the whole quad, because it is such a good movement. It sets you up to feel it the whole quad over. You should really take advantage of that, and do whatever you can to increase that mind-muscle connection. I don't take a ton of supplements, admittedly. Anyone who's been watching me over the years, I'm a huge nutrition guy. I believe in good food, good nutrition, eating consistently, getting enough food in every day. I will use Animal Pack. I will use Animal Omega. Outside of that, if it's talking sport, sport or training specific, as in around the time of training, I will use, if I'm in the off season, I will use carbs during training. Something like Carbo Plus, just a simple, no frills, I don't need anything crazy carb drink whether I'm off-season or pre-contest, I will use EAAs during training. Now, EAAs are nothing new. A lot of people, they don't find it sexy. They say, well, it's just amino acids. They say, well, I used them before. They didn't do anything for me. The reason most people don't have great success with amino acids or any other supplement for that matter is a lot of things are dose dependent. So people taking 5 grams of aminos, okay, before a workout or during a workout, and they say, well, I don't know, I didn't feel much. No shit, you didn't feel much. You took 5 grams. Something like these, right, essential aminos, I'll take anywhere from 20 to 30 grams during a training session. And I'm gonna tell you right now, you feel that. Between not only your stamina during that workout, but your recovery is increased big time and your fullness is improved dramatically. So you'll walk around, whatever pump you get during your training, you'll carry that for like the next 24 hours. You'll walk around feeling like you got a pump. Amino acids absolutely work, but you need to take enough of them. It's always been my feeling, rather than take 5 different supplements, okay, and take a sprinkle of each one, I'd rather take 1 or 2 and take a big enough dose to actually get out of it what it is that I'm supposed to be getting out of it. So, whether you think it's sexy or not, essential amino acids. One thing to note, because again, it's probably something you guys will want to know in terms of rest between sets on these. I find myself needing some good rest in between sets on these because these beat me up pretty good. It's very possible you guys watching, you're in better shape than me, so you can do the next set sooner. I guess really the main the main piece of advice I give is whenever you're ready to dedicate a full effort to the next set. You don't want to go into the next set where you're moving the same weight you did on the last set for half the number of reps or less. You want to be able to hit it hard, feel it. You don't want to just run into it dying on the next set because of just plain old fatigue. So I on these need at least 3-4 minutes before I can do the next one adequately. For this one, I'm keeping the stack at 200. I'm going to probably stay, I think, with 80s on the dumbbells. And that will be the last working set here. We're going to move on to something else. So let's do this. Next up, I'm gonna hit some hack squats. I'm telling you guys, do those split squats with the extensions, see how much it takes out of you. So one thing to do too is to really focus on the negative on these. To really make sure you're feeling it in the right spots. And again, from this, load from the hip down. Don't think from the knee up, but from here down. Control it from the hip. One more thing that's important to note in regard to foot placement, right? Do we want our feet completely straight, north-south, or should we open them up? I find that if I open my feet up just slightly, now we don't want to be, totally duck foot, just spread our feet open, but open just a little bit. That'll take some pressure off the knees and allow the range of motion to happen more naturally. Because sometimes if you keep your feet completely north-south, things get a little jammed up, a little tight, and you don't get that full range of motion, and you get a little bit more pressure in your knees. So by opening up your feet just slightly, you probably find you're going to get a better feel. You know, hack squats definitely get a reputation as being rough on the knees, which they totally can be. Sometimes it depends on the apparatus itself, but even then, some adjustments to your foot placement and just being mindful of what it is you're doing and going into it warmed up, doing some foam rolling, etc., should be enough usually to mitigate that. I still don't know that hack squat, unless you just feel great with it. You know, for everybody has different movements that are strong, that they feel safe with, that are good movements for them. Hack squats, I don't know that it's the best movement to just throw a ton of weight on, because we've seen guys get hurt with these. We've seen guys get hurt with a lot of different movements, but hack squat, I don't know if it's the one to go nuts with, unless you feel really confident, you feel good with it. So play it smart, play it safe. Just remember, it's important to push yourself in your training. Nothing is going to happen in your training without you pushing yourself and without overload and without you putting in some serious grunt work. That said, if you're going to go to the point where you risk injury, just remember you can't train if you're injured. And an injury will set you back so far, very feasibly to the point where you'll never get back to where you were. But even if it's a minor injury and it's going to take you out of the gym for a month or for however long, you can't train if you're injured, right? So it's a fine line between pushing yourself as much as you need to push yourself to progress, but not pushing yourself to the point of injury where you will regress. So be smart. Last set, I'm going to add one more plate to this. So 3 plates on a hack squat may not seem like a lot. Maybe I'm not that strong, but I don't know. I feel like this hack squat is a bit heavy. But admittedly, I have been stronger in the past. So I don't know that I can fully accurately judge. That's it for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you can walk away from this with at least one piece of something that's useful that you can employ and it helps you, that's great. If not, I'm sorry. Until next time, I'll see you guys. Stay safe. I'll see you soon.